Hi everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about all of the books that I would like to reread soon for various reasons. I recently got back into rereading. I say recently, it was a couple of years ago. Prior to that, I probably wouldn't have reread much at all because I was very much of the mindset that there's always a brand new book to read. I should be trying to get through as many new releases as possible, as well as reading through my backlist TBR. But now I've realised that I actually really love rereading books, especially my favourites, because I love getting a whole new perspective of them. I love getting back into the same worlds that I've been in before. So I love rereading and I want to reread all of these books in the very near future. Probably not by the end of the year because I don't want to set any more unrealistic goals for myself, but I'm going to hopefully try my best and at least get to a few of them. Let's say a handful. First of all, I hope to reread Shipped by Angie Hockman. I gave this on 5 stars last year. Really enjoyed it. It's an adult rom-com about two arch rivals who are going for the same promotion, a bit like The Hating Game, except the romance is less toxic and the two main characters are excellent. It's also set in the Galapagos Islands. Really enjoyed this one. I would highly recommend it. If you haven't read it already, please do. The next one I would like to reread definitely this year because it's been a project that I've wanted to do for a while now. That is Throne of Glass. So I've read up to, not including Empire of Storms, that was it. So I read up to and including Queen of Shadows, and I loved books 3 and 4. I didn't love books 1 and 2. I thought they were terrible, but this was years ago. I haven't read this series since 2015 and I really want to finish it off, especially because I have these really nice hardbacks of the final books, apart from Tower of Dawn, but we don't talk about that one. And I just really want to know how this series ends because I feel like I've invested a lot of time and energy into these characters and I still don't know how they end up. So I want to start rereading it this year, as well as books 2, 3 and 4 in the series, and then finally finish it off. I would also really like to reread The Light Brigade by Cameron Hurley. This is a science fiction book that is all over the place. I've recently been watching Dark on Netflix and that has reminded me a lot of this one with the time travel-y stuff that's not in the correct order. In fact, thinking about it, it's very similar and I love this one. I think I gave it 5 stars. If I didn't, I probably should have. So I'm looking forward to rereading this and getting back into it, figuring out all of the clues and the hints, all of the red herrings. I think it'll be so much fun to do a reread of this one, particularly because I remember bits and pieces of it, but not all of it. The next one is one that you're going to roll your eyes at me for because I want to reread the 5th season. I have spoken about this book series in pretty much every single video where I talk about things I want to read soon, but it's just so intimidating. And I've decided, my issue is that I read the 5th season so long ago, and while I did do a recap on Recaptain, so I could just go and reread that, I think I don't remember enough of the smaller details and I don't remember enough of why I loved this first book so much to carry on reading the series. So in order to finally finish off this trilogy this year, I need to reread the 5th season. I think I'm going to do that in May. There's no reason for me not to reread it, except that I am slightly intimidated by it, even though I've read it once before. This doesn't make any sense. I don't know why I'm like this, but I am somehow. I love this book, by the way. I think I gave it 4 stars at the time. I might give it 5 on a reread. That's what I'm predicting. Next, I would really like to reread Into the Drowning Deep, particularly for Halloween this year, I think. I made my friend read this one because it's a sort of underwater horror book about killer mermaids. My friend's brother is a marine biologist and we're always messaging him with random stuff about the deep sea, and I am terrified of the dark ocean. I don't mind the sea where you can see your feet, but anything that is dark, pitch black, you don't know what's under there, I absolutely hate. So this book was chilling for me, really scared me, and I love the killer mermaid aspect as well. There's this one particular scene where one of the characters is going down in this submarine and going down into the Mariana Trench, and it is the most terrifying scene I've ever read in any book, but I would highly recommend it. This is a very good book, and it's also the only Mira Grant book that I have read so far. If that doesn't say it all, then I don't know how else I can convince you. It's amazing and I would highly recommend picking it up. Next we have My Dark Vanessa. I want to reread this one and tab it because this was one of my favourite books of last year. It was an absolutely, I don't know the word for it, it was compelling, it was beautiful, but in obviously a really dark way. I was discussing this with my friend, the same friend who has a marine biologist brother, because I made her read this for her birthday because I'm that kind of friend. And we were talking about how this is a good enough book to potentially be studied in the future. I think it's honestly fantastic. It's about a student who is groomed by her teacher, and it goes back and forth in time. In the past, obviously, we see her getting to know her teacher or her teacher grooming her, and then later on when she is an adult, it comes out that the teacher has been doing this to other people and she has to come to terms with that because she thought that she was in a relationship with him and that she was special because that's what he kept telling her, but obviously that is not really the case. And she also doesn't think that what they had together was abuse, she thinks it was love. So it's a whole book about how she got to that point, and then also about her starting to unravel those feelings feelings, because if she doesn't have the love that she thought that she had, then those 10-15 years that she spent with him, what were they? It's honestly fantastic. I want to do a full review on it, but I do need to reread it first and then tab it up and make it look amazing. It's a fantastic book. Would highly recommend it if you don't mind reading about dark topics. The next two are a couple of thrillers, which I don't normally reread, but I love these books so much, or at least I did back in the day, that I would like to reread them. So the first one is The Lost Man by Jane Harper. Jane Harper is one of my favourite thriller authors. I keep talking about her. She also wrote The Dry, which is here somewhere. I would like to reread that one as well, but I'm more interested in rereading The Lost Man because, if memory serves, this one is my favourite book by her. I love the setting of it. I think it's set in a more isolated area of Australia, and I really felt like as I was reading it, the sun was beaming down on me. There was potentially a dead body dehydrating and decomposing near an abandoned tree. This, I think, is her top work. She is so good at writing atmospheric thrillers, but also thrillers where the relationships and the connections between the characters all comes together and helps build the plot. So it's not just the characters and their stories are based around this sort of mystery, it's more that the mystery is based around these characters and their relationships, if that makes any sense. I love this one so much, and I think I'm going to read it when there's a heatwave in the UK, because there's probably going to be one this year. There's normally one every year, at least for a day or two, and I think that'll be a really good time to read this because it's a fantastic book and I want to feel as though I am dying in Australia. So this next one is another thriller, but I haven't actually read it in years. I read this one when it first came out, which would have been in about 2013. I'll show you what the book is first actually. It's Pretty Girl 13 by Liz Coley. I remember absolutely adoring this, and it wasn't huge on BookTube at the time, but a decent amount of people were reading it and recommending it. And this was definitely one of my top books of the year whenever it came out. I think it was 2013 in the UK at least. And this is quite similar to My Dark Vanessa now that I think about it, in that the main character is having some issues with her memory. She has been missing for a few years, I think, and she comes back and rejoins her family, and everyone is really happy, but they're also acting a little bit strangely, and the main character can't remember why, or she doesn't know how long she's been gone, and she doesn't know why everyone's being a bit weird. As far as I can remember, it's about her trying to find out the truth of what happened to her in those missing years and getting her memory back, and I remember absolutely loving it. I thought that the depiction of trauma in this one and abuse was excellent. I remember the twists, I think, but I don't want to say anything else just in case I do end up spoiling something accidentally, because I can't remember what's a secret and what's not. But this was a really good book and I'd highly recommend it, at least so far. Maybe I'll reread it and I'll think it's trash, but it was really good 9 years ago. And then finally, the last book that I would really like to reread soon, possibly this year in the autumn, because it feels like an autumny kind of book, is The Mountains Sing. This one is a historical fiction book set in Vietnam, so it's set before and during the Vietnam War. And it's one of those generational stories, similar to Homegoing actually, which is another one that I want to reread soon, but I don't own it yet, so that's why I didn't hold it up today. But this one is a generational story. It covers the main character and her grandmother, and her mother partly as well, I think. I can't remember loads about it. I think what I was doing when I was reading it was, obviously I was reading, but I think what I was taking in more was the historical context rather than the character building in it. So I think if I were to reread it now that I know a bit more about the history of the time and the Vietnam War, not that I know loads, but I will know a lot more once I read some more books on it. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is now that I am not too focused on trying to figure out the dates and the details and things and figuring out what exactly the Vietnam War was, I think I'll be able to focus on the characters a lot more upon a reread, so that will be really good. So those are the books that I would like to reread soon. Like I said, I probably won't reread all of them this year, but I would like to reread them as soon as possible because I love all of these books and I think rereading them will really enhance the experience for me. Let me know if you've read any of these, or let me know if you like rereading books, if you don't like rereading. Were you like me, where you didn't used to like it, but now that you've grown a little bit older and you're not so focused on the newest release all the time, maybe you do like rereading? I don't know, let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll be back in my next one. Bye!